Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make an aquarium. But without any further ado, let's get started. This is the amount of space required to make the aquarium. And here are the materials that we will use at the beginning of the build. However, we will need to grab some more stuff later on. Mainly just for decoration and the actual aquarium dwellers themselves. Begin by placing a blue concrete on the ground. Place a blue concrete behind it, and then extend it to the right by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then extend one row forwards, and then continue extending from the original block to the right by 3. 1, 2, 3. We then, as we look down at the ground, want to place a blue concrete block back and right diagonally. Extend right by 2, 1, 2, and then place 2 more back right diagonal blue concretes. 1, 2. Extend back 2, 1, 2. Then extend back and right diagonally, and then back by a further 3. 1, 2, 3. Then extend right 1. Then continue extending backwards from this original block by 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Extend right 1. And then continue extending backwards from the original block by 3. 1, 2, 3. Place a back left diagonal blue concrete, and then extend back by 2. 1, 2. Place 2 back left diagonally placed blue concrete. 1, 2. Extend left by 2. 1, 2. Place a blue concrete back and left diagonally. Extend left by 3. 1, 2, 3. Extend back 1, and then continue extending left from this original block by 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Extend back by 1. And then continue extending left by 3. 1, 2, 3. Then place a blue concrete forwards and to the left and extend left by 2. 1, 2. Then place 2 blue concretes forward and to the left. 1, 2. And then extend forwards by 2. 1, 2. Place a blue concrete forwards and to the left, and extend forwards by 3, 1, 2, 3. Extend left 1, and then continue extending forwards from this block, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Extend left 1, and then continue extending forwards by 3, 1, 2, 3. Place a blue concrete block forwards and to the right, and then forwards by 2, 1, 2. Then place 2 blue concretes forwards and to the right, 1, 2. Extend right by 2, 1, 2. Then place a blue concrete forwards and to the right, and then extend right by 3, 1, 2, 3. Then extend forwards 1, but then continue extending from the original block to the right by 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then extend forwards 1, and this is what we should end up with. So if we have a look at this from the sky, this is the outline of our aquarium. Next, we are going to come back down to where we roughly first started, which is going to be this blue concrete here. Extend inwards towards the center of the aquarium by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We then want to extend to the right by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back on ourselves. like this. We actually then want to do the exact same thing on this opposite side, so we want to take this block here, extend back by 1, 2, 3, 4, and then left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then extend and connect back, just like this. The next thing that we are going to do, coming back over to the original, we want to come to this corner block here, and in the ground, we want to extend inwards and to the right and dig this block. And then dig to the right one, and then dig back and right diagonally to 1 and 2, extend back one, and then we want to place a blue concrete block here, back and to the right diagonally. This will then connect to the side, like so. We then want to extend this blue concrete block inwards by 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then connect this to the outer wall. We then want to continue extending the 7th block backwards and connect it to where the wall extends out on the side of the build, like this. Then, to continue, from this corner block here, we want to dig 2 blocks in from here, the corner, 1, 2, and then back and diagonally, left by 2, 1, 2, then left 1. Then we want to place a blue concrete block here, diagonally, connect back to this back wall. We then want to extend left from this first blue concrete block by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in. We then want to continue extending by 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then extend in. And then we want to continue extending by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then connect to the back once more, and you should be able to see that we have 2 even tanks with a larger one in the middle. And then in the ground, forwards and to the left from this blue concrete here, we dig 2 blocks going left and diagonally. We then dig forwards and to the left by 2, 1, 2, extend forwards 1. We then place a blue concrete here in front and to the left diagonally, connect to this side wall, and then take this first blue concrete and extend back by 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, connect to the side wall like this. Then continue extending forwards and to the side wall once more where it sticks out like this. We then want to, in front of and to the right diagonally, we want to dig 2 blocks forwards like so, and then dig a further 2 blocks forwards and diagonally, 1, 2, and then connect back to where we started. So this might seem a little bit complicated, but if we have a look at it from the sky, it all connects together rather nicely. We have essentially made a bunch of different tanks, or the outlines for them, and we can now fill in the floor where we have dug to form kind of like a cool oval shape with sea lanterns. So on each one of the 4 corners of the aquarium, we'll have these nice big open tanks that you can see from the outside, and then in between them all we have varying sizes of tank that you can only see from the inside but have some smaller or less fish and wildlife in them. Next, we have to make a large central tank. The way that we do this is by coming to the entrance of the aquarium, which is here, right at the front in the middle. We need to locate the 2 middle blocks in between this back pair of blue concrete. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means if we leave a gap of 3 on each side, 1, 2, 3, we knock out the 2 middle blocks, we should have 3 on both sides. So the reason that this is relevant, and by the way, fill this in with a quartz brick and a black concrete. The reason that this is relevant is because we now want to dig backwards 6 rows from these 2 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that last row, place sea lanterns. Dig left and right of these 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place sea lanterns in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place sea lanterns in here. We then want to dig diagonally outwards on both sides, backwards 2, 1, 2. But then we want to extend backwards by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're just going to fill this in with sea lanterns also. And then we want to dig inwards diagonally by 2. So 1, 2, like this. And if we do the exact same thing on this opposite side, so inwards diagonally by 2, so here and here. Backwards by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. fill this all in with sea lanterns. We then want to dig inwards and backwards 1, 2, like this, fill it in with sea lanterns, and then we are going to connect both sides together, just like this. And what we will be left with is an oval of sea lanterns directly in the center. So as you can see, this is perfect. This is pretty much the entire layout of the aquarium. So before we continue, my recommendation would be to take the corners of the aquarium where we have these curved bits of blue concrete, destroy them, and replace in the ground using sea lanterns. So this, in my opinion, makes the aquarium a little bit cooler because we can actually see through straight into the aquarium. So we're kind of like blending the inside and the outside together. So this isn't necessary, of course, this is more of a personal choice, but it's something that I would recommend. Next, we are going to build up the walls of the aquarium. Once again, I'm going to recommend starting with the corners. On top of the sea lanterns that we now have on the corners of the build, place rows of 5 grey stained glass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on top of those will be a blue concrete like this. So we have to do this all the way around, and also just on the inside as well, where we have these smaller rows of sea lanterns. With the corners of the aquarium done, let's work on the spaces in between. So let's start all the way over here on the left side of the entrance. Begin by raising up these outwardly stretched blue concretes by 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. So it's as high as the rest of the aquarium. I would recommend exchanging the center blocks on the left and right sides of these spaces in particular with black concrete. We can then raise them up by the exact same amount as the blue concrete like this, or you could even make the top block blue concrete like so, so that the black is kind of like in the middle. But it really doesn't matter which way around you do it, but we're just going to extend the blue concrete forwards and back like this. So we want to also extend up the blue concrete here on the right side, the black concrete also, However, we are getting to a point where on the inside here, we do not want to fill this in because this is of course going to be a tank. So we'll extend the top over just like so. And we can fill the front of it in also using blue concrete as well, but we want the center part exposed so that we can see everything. And we are just going to fill the middle of this in with sand. You can even drop it down a row if you like, but ultimately we will be filling this in with glass. It's actually best to leave the top open so that we can actually fill all of these in effectively later, but yeah, there we go. If you did want to make this a little bit more like interesting, so to speak, you could add a different color at the bottom, but I actually found that with experimenting, I prefer it to just be all blue concrete. So we want to apply this just over here next to the entrance as well on the opposite side. There we go, so we now have the exact same thing either side of the entrance. The next part that we will work on is the side, so we'll start on the right side because why not? We actually want to do a very similar thing, so we can pretty safely take the corners of the tanks and extend them up by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's kind of up to you once again whether you want to do the same with like the sides of the tanks and also the spaces in between the tanks. So for instance, on the side we have 2 tanks, right? So we have this tank and this tank. If you want to change the color of the spacer between the tanks into black concrete, I would highly recommend doing so myself just because it does just add a little bit more intrigue. The entire side of the building can actually be filled in with blue concrete up to the same height that we have it everywhere else. But once again, we're going to want to leave the actual front displays of the tanks nice and open, or well, fill them with glass. We don't want them to be open, the fish would escape, but you guys get the idea. And then this side as well, where it connects into the corner tank. So we're going to line the tanks with sand and then fill the front of them in using the grey glass. And then we will just leave the tops open because trust me, I do believe that you would definitely regret it if you didn't. It's just easier to fill them in that way. And now that we've done that to this side, we may as well come over to this side and do the exact same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can raise up the corners quite easily, add in the spacers, fill in the backs using just blue concrete, and then the front in with glass. Add some sand into them as well, nice and easy. So now that we have the exact same thing on the right side and the left side, we just have to make the back. And now that we have done all that, I think that you guys might find this a bit familiar. We are going to raise up the tanks, or the corners of the tanks, by 5 rows, just like this. We will change the spacing in between the tanks into black concrete with blue concrete tops, fill the entire back of the tanks in using blue concrete, and then fill the front of the tanks in with glass. So now that we have made all of the various outer tanks, we can now focus on the large central tank. So on top of each one of these sea lanterns, we want to place rows of 5 grey stained glass, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with then a black carpet on top. Easy. We also have to fill the center of the tank in using sand, and not only that, we will have to do that for each one of the 4 corner tanks as well. So now that we have dug out each one of the individual tanks and replaced the grass with sand, we can now work on the entrance a little bit. So we want to take the 2 inward corners of the entrance and dig 1, 2, 3 rows inwards, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 rows forwards, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then dig back to the actual walls like this. Fill these in using cyan terracotta, like so. We then want to add 3 rows of glass on top of the terracotta, so 1, 2, 3, like this. So now that we have these 2 mini tanks, we are going to place black concrete on top and extend across like this, although it probably is a good idea to leave a row or so that you are actually able to get into these, as we are going to be filling these in a little bit. But the black concrete wants to extend all the way forwards, and then we will extend outwards like this so that we clip into the blue concrete a little bit. And whilst we are here, I actually want to raise up the 2 front tanks of the entrance. So I want to add blue concrete further on top of the 2 blue tanks of the entrance, and it's basically just to make it stand out a little bit. It's just to separate the entrance from everywhere else, just like so, and I think that it just looks pretty good like this. So we will also be adding some black concrete just at the back here, so we will just be filling in this area with black concrete, because there's going to be a sign and there's going to be some like fish pixel art and statues and stuff, so it's going to look pretty cool and it will cover all of what we can see now. Now that we have these 2 tanks left and right of the actual entrance, what we are now able to do is install the floor for the aquarium. So the floor is made out of quartz bricks and black concrete, and they are made in a checkered pattern. This comes all the way to the actual end of these tanks right here. This is where it starts, and it extends all the way back and through the aquarium, encircling this large oval tank. So we have to dig out all of this and replace the grass with the checkered pattern. So once the entire floor has been made, we will be left with this rather pleasing checkered pattern that permeates throughout the entire aquarium. So the next thing that we are going to make for the aquarium is the sign. There is an actual lettered sign above the door, but we also have some statues to build as well. So come all the way to the right side above the black concrete here, leave a gap of 1 between this blue concrete, and place a row of 1, 2, 3, 4 cyan concrete extending up from the top of the black concrete overhang. We then want to place a white concrete on top, black concrete on top of that, 2 cyan concrete on top of that, and then 5 cyan concrete extending left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then extend down 1, black concrete, white concrete, and then extend all the way down using cyan concrete. We then want to fill this in up to the eye level, in which we then want to extend the white concretes inwards, and then we want to extend the white concretes up like this, so we have little beady eyes and a bunch of white surrounding. We then want to fill the rest of this in using cyan concrete, and then we are going to extend the sides of the squid head backwards so that it sits neatly just in front of this black concrete backboard. So now that we have made the squid, we have a couple more creatures to make. So grab smooth red sandstone and come to this point on the squid. So this is basically leave a gap between the inward corner of the right eye and then place a smooth red sandstone. 1 underneath, white concrete to the right, smooth red sandstone, white concrete to the right, and then right of this, we want to place a smooth red sandstone stairs like this, and then an upside down one underneath placed like so, which will give us a fish body and tail, and we can even stick a polished blackstone button just in front of the upper left hand corner of the fish, and we can even double up on the fish if you like. It's kind of hard to get in the right position to place all of these stairs and what have you, but you can double up on the fish if you like here and here, and then we kind of just clip into the squid. It just makes it a little bit more 3D though. So next we are going to make a pufferfish. This is going to be positioned under the inward corner of the opposite eye, and we want to place 2 yellow terracotta extending outwards, and then left by 2, 1, 2, and then back 2, 1, 2. Fill the top in like this. We then want to fill around the edge of the fish in using yellow terracotta, leaving the center block alone so that we can place a magenta terracotta in there instead. We then want to place upside down smooth sandstone stairs all the way around the edge of the pufferfish like so, and we do also want to fill the bottom of this in with a stair as well. Then we can add polished blackstone buttons in the top 2 corners like this, and then we want to have open birch fence gates on the left and right side of the middle of the pufferfish like so. And there we have the actual 3D portion of the sign. I am realizing that we are going to want to extend the black concrete another row forwards like this, maybe even an additional row forwards as well, but we can always test it when we get there. So the reason that this has to extend forwards is because we have to write the sign itself. So throw down a loom, open it up, and the first letter that we have to make in the word aquarium is A. So add some black dye, vertical row of black on the left side, the right side, and a horizontal row of black across the top, and then straight through the middle. That is A. Next, we have to make Q. So that's a vertical row of black on the left side, grab white dye, stick it in there, make the lower half of the banner white, grab the black dye again, put it in there, add a horizontal row of black straight through the middle of the banner, across the top, and a vertical row on the right side. We then have to make U, so this is a vertical row of black on the left side, the right side, horizontal across the bottom. We then would have to make A again, but we can just reuse this, so instead we are going to make R. This is a vertical row of black on the left side, horizontal across the top, and then a diagonal row top left corner to bottom right corner. Next is going to be eyes. So this is just a vertical row of black just straight up the middle of the banner. Next would be U again, but once again we can reuse it. So we are instead going to make N. So this is the triangle at the top of the banner in black. We then grab white dye, stick it in there, and then we want to add the 3 little mini white triangles. Grab that, stick that back in there, add black dye instead, and then add a vertical row of black on the left side, the right side of the banner, and there we go. We have Aquarium. I can't even pronounce that word that we have, but we will be able to place this directly on top of this black concrete here. And I'm realizing we do in fact need an additional row of black, because otherwise we won't pass the pufferfish. So the letters for the sign are actually just going to start 1 row inwards on the left of the end here. So we need an A, Q, U, A, R, I, U, M. Perfect. So aquarium. Just like that. So that is the sign. That's looking really good. And now I think it's time for us to just finish the outside of the build so that we can solely focus on the inside. So for the entrance, we want to grab stone and place a vertical row of stone all the way over here on the left, just inwards of the blue concrete of the entrance, and all the way over here on the right, which is once again just inward of the entrance like this. So 2 rows of stone. So these have to be filled in at some point, but for now, we also want to add some spruce fence. So we want to place spruce fence, leaving a gap of 1 on the stone from the actual building itself. So fence, gap, fence, gap, fence, gap, fence, leading all the way forwards like this. Perfect. We now have to mark out some places for some trees and a little bit of decoration, because we're kind of going for a cool theme out here. So the decoration is going to kind of sit inside of this shape here, inside of the middle-ish of this tank, and we want to place a row of 1, 2, 3, 4 jungle wood extending up, and then forwards, up, forward, something like this. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's a palm tree, essentially, and we kind of then just want to extend the wood forwards, left, and right in just varying rows like so, and it doesn't have to be perfect at all. I kind of want it to look more natural. And it can even just extend just down the back like this. And again, I think that it just adds a cool little bit of detail to the build. We are then going to dig a little pool just in front of this like so. And then we want to add some sand and some water. Well, it might be easier to add water first, so we're going to add some water to this pool. And you can extend this pool if you like, it can come all the way to the end if you like. But what is important is that we add some sand to the bottom of this, and then we will add some sand around this. I might even surround the entire aquarium with a little bit of sand, so just to, you know, kind of show you what I mean. I mean, I think that you guys know what sand looks like, but you know, just all the way just inside of the grid at the very least, or maybe just in these left and right parts here. I mean, it doesn't have to envelop the whole thing, but something cool as well. Add some turtle eggs. I think that will look pretty cool. It's just a nice little bit of decoration, and we want to do a very similar thing on this opposite side. So on this opposite side, we're going to place 1, 2, 3. Yeah, shall we have a slightly smaller one? No, we'll go for 4 jungle wood, and then forwards, up, forwards, something like that. And then once again, we'll add the jungle leaves in such a way that we kind of like make a palm tree. I think, well, I don't know if you could. Do you guys know what a palm tree looks like? Sort of similar-ish to this. It's not too crazy. I mean, it basically just juts out in most directions, but, you know, Minecraft being Minecraft, we'll just do forwards, backwards, left and right, just like this. Kind of sticks out at the top a little bit as well. We could even add some coconuts. That might be fun as well, but we also want to add some water, just left and right of it. Extend the tree into the ground. We want to have the same sort of shape like so. We want to add some sand to the bottom. Just like this. And then we're going to fill the pool in with water. And then we want to add like a pirate's treasure chest. So this is going to be made using 2 blocks of raw gold. And then we have to grab spruce trapdoors, and we will clad the entire outside of the chest with the spruce trapdoors. This also works with dark oak trapdoors as well. And we want to have them stick up at the back like this. And there we go. I think that it just adds like a nice cool bit of detail. And if we are looking for some like coconuts or something like that, then we can add like a brown shulker box or so just up at the top, and it kind of just adds once again kind of like a little bit of detail. I think that looks pretty good, and we'll figure out exactly if we do want to have the entire outside of the aquarium be sand, or if maybe just on the left and right, but for now this is pretty good. So we are not going to fill all of this in just yet. We can leave that until the very end, but I'm just very happy that we have added those details. Next up, we have to fill all of the tanks inside of the aquarium in using water. So luckily we have left ourselves little gaps so that we can get everywhere. So first of all, we just have this area next to the door on the left and the right side. Both of these need filling up. And of course these larger tanks here. So it's up to you how high you want the water to go. Like if you want the entire area filled in with water, so like all the way up to the glass, or if you would like to leave a row off of the top, that's also completely fine. It really is just a personal choice. So I myself, I'm going to fill all the way up to the top of the glass line here, and I'm just going to go all the way around each one of these tanks and fill them all in, including the central tank also. So I would recommend the back pair of smaller tanks to fill them to a little bit of a lower level, because I'm actually going to stick an axolotl in there and a toad. You can even preemptively, if you like, add a bit of podzol into the base of the tank instead of sand, if you like, as well. I just think that that is a more realistic environment. Now that we have filled all of the tanks in using water, we can now decorate them. So, at the very least, in every single tank, minus the specialty tanks, we are going to have a mixture of some shroomlight, kelp, seagrass, various corals, some sea pickles, and, well, more corals, and different corals. Did I mention coral? So, for instance, let's start here and move our way round anti-clockwise, because why not? In the tanks, and they can vary of course, it's up to you how you want to do this, but I'd recommend a shroomlight block at the very least, some sea pickles, some kelp, a bit of seagrass, and then at the very least 1 or 2 corals. So whether that is the smaller versions of the coral, the larger versions of the coral, or the full blocks of the coral, it's completely up to you. But for the smaller tanks like this one, I would recommend keeping it nice and light, but for the larger tanks, maybe apply 2 shroomlight blocks, a large amount of kelp. Kelp is such a cool block in my opinion. Seagrass, maybe a couple of formations of pickles, some of the larger corals like this, and then you can even go as far to grab some of the big variations as well. So maybe some coral blocks like this in the middle, maybe some built up on the side, something like that, you know? And the kelp will help to really bring this thing to life once it actually starts to grow. The kelp will do a huge amount of heavy lifting for the individual tanks, but that's what we essentially want to do for every single one of these, minus the specialty tanks, meaning the middle tank and the 2 podzol tanks. So let's do all of the conventional tanks and then we can talk about the others. We do also want to decorate the central tank in a similar manner as we have the other tanks, but we will be adding special details a little later on. So, for the two podzol tanks at the back, these are going to have frogs / axolotls in them, and we are going to decorate them a little bit differently. So we are going to have some jungle wood that the various creatures can sit and rest on. The frogs especially like to do this, with some spruce fence built up above, maybe even in the corner as well. I like some vines around the tops of the tanks, maybe even a stone in the form of a literal stone slab as well. And then kelp is really good in here still, because that could be any sort of like aquatic plant, and we can have some seagrass as well. Despite the fact that seagrass is in the name, you know, it still just looks like a regular sort of grassy plant. So add a shroomlight in there, and that's looking really good. And we want to do the exact same thing over here also. I mentioned earlier that some of the tanks are going to have some special things in them. So one of my personal favourite things to do with every single fish tank, large or small, is hide a SpongeBob reference in there. However, we actually have room to add 4 of them. So the first of which I am going to slide into this tank here. I think that we'll place them in each one of the 4 corner tanks. Or if you're feeling a bit sneaky, they do fit in the smaller tanks, but I think that it's cool to have them in the big ones. So the first reference is going to be SpongeBob's house itself, which is going to be made using a honeycomb block and seagrass on top. So anybody who is keen-eyed enough will be able to see that. Next, we are going to have Squidward's house, which is going to be made using... Where shall we place it first of all? Here. It's going to be made using 3 warped planks, and then we'll extend the planks forwards on one side like this, using a warped fence, and you can add them to the sides as well. And it kind of looks like Squidward's house. We are going to come to the opposite corner tank here, and we are going to add a... Where can we add this? This one's actually really full. So we'll add a brown concrete with an oak fence on top and an oak fence gate connected to it just off to the side. I don't know why it's placed this way. There we go. That's perfect. And probably on the other side as well. And this is of course a reference to Patrick's house. Now, last but not least, and probably the hardest one to make and the most space intensive, which is unfortunate because this is such a nice tank, I really don't want to change it too much, but we are going to need to place a square of glass like this, and we have to have a block that we are actually able to place an azalea onto. And we have to be fast with this, I've found. So, the centre block has to be something the azalea can be placed onto, so grass will do, podzol will do. We have to quickly place an azalea and then place a glass on top. So, there, hang on, there, perfect. So, the azalea... Well, maybe you don't have to be so fast. Oh, actually, okay, it's just... I thought azaleas destroyed themselves in water, very much like saplings, but I'm wrong, you don't have to be fast at all. So an azalea, of course, with a glass on top, looks like Sandy's tree dome, which is, you know, just kind of fun. So we have 4 SpongeBob references, all dotted around our aquarium, and there's a couple more cool things that we can add to the central tank specifically. So for the central tank, we are going to want to add a pirate's treasure chest, very similar to what we have out front. So this is going to be some raw gold, surrounded by spruce trapdoors, and of course these back 2 spruce trapdoors want to just get flipped upwards, like so. We have to also place a sand castle. This is going to be in the form, it has to be placed away from the glass. This is going to be in the form of 4 sandstone wool, just connected together like this, and there we have a little sand castle. We can... This entire display here is just for dolphins, so I'm thinking that we can have like a cool little archway for them to swim through. I mean, they probably won't swim through it, but you know, we can have an archway all the same. So this is made just using a series of stone slabs like this, so they can potentially swim under here. And last but not least, we also have to add decoration to the 2 side tanks. So a magma block, some seagrass, a bit of kelp. I mean, even some colourful coral would wouldn't go amiss, so maybe instead of on the kelp, that'd look cool. And we can have these in the other tank as well. So I just like the bubbles for these because it kind of like draws a little bit more attention, but it's completely up to you whether you want to also add magma blocks to some of the to the other tanks as well. That is also a fine decoration. Before we start adding in fish, we should probably just take care of the outside. So I am just going to fill this middle part in using stone. And then I think that we will just fill the surrounding of the aquarium in with sand, but we can always change this at a later time. One last little bit of detail that we can add to the outside of our aquarium is black carpet above the windows. So we will have to place string for this, but I think that it's worth it. We don't really have to place it anywhere else around the aquarium, and this is a really small detail. You may not even want to add this, but I think that it just brings in... There we go. I think that it just adds a nice little bit of detail to the corners, and it just breaks up the blue and the grey a little bit. So it's up to you whether you want to add that. I'm going to do that on each one of the 4 corners. Feel free to do it yourself or leave it off. Now, with all of the detail finally complete on the outside of the build, we can head inside and start filling up these tanks. I'm going to start just on the right here and kind of go around counterclockwise. So for this first tank, I would recommend a nice small fish, and we are going to have to reuse some of these, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to stack about 3 or 4 tropical fish in here. I think that's pretty cool. In the corner tanks, I'm going to give you 4 recommendations, but do feel free to change them as well. So, squid, turtles, glow squids, or guardians. You can also go for elder guardians, but they're absolutely huge and they don't really fit in here. So, why don't we go with glow squids, because this is the front. So, 1 or 2 of these will look nice in here. And then we're going to go for a couple of pufferfish in the smaller tanks here on the side. Maybe a couple of salmon. Although salmon, I do believe, are freshwater fish, so they probably wouldn't do so well in the sea environment, which we have them in here, but nobody needs to know that. In this corner tank here, let's go for... What shall we go for? What's fun? Shall we go for just a couple of... Let's go for a couple of guardians. There we go. So this is a podzol tank, so we're just going to skip this for now, and in this central tank here we are going to place, we have a lot of room in here, so why don't we place a bunch of cod. You could even go for a mix of fish in the particularly large tanks, but it's completely up to you. That's another podzol tank, so we'll just leave it for a second, and in this one I am going to stick some good old regular squids. There we go, perfect. And then we kind of have to repeat ourselves already, so my personal favourites are the tropical fish, the pufferfish and the salmon, so I think they'll place quite a few tropical fish in there. Then we'll have a couple of pufferfish in here. In this corner, because this is kind of like front facing again, I like turtles because like they just seem to like move around a lot more than some of the other mobs, and that's why I like glow squids on the front as well, because they're just a bit more interesting and eye-catching. And then last but not least, we can place some salmon in this tank. 3 or 4 will do just nicely. So the podzol tanks, we are going to have a slight problem if we don't fill the tops in, because you will find that the frogs may escape. So in one of these podzol tanks, I'm just going to chuck a couple of frogs and then just seal this up. I'd probably use glass, but it's completely up to you. And then in this opposite one, I don't believe that the exotals are quite as good escape artists, so some exotals in there will do nicely. But we can just seal up the top just in case, but it's probably the layout of that previous tank, like with the fence in the corner is how the frogs managed to escape, but we can, it's fine. Now, for the last tank, the center tank, I'm going to recommend, shall we go for 3 dolphins in here? 1, 2, 3, perfect. And these will love the tank, they love swimming underneath the little stone bridge, exploring all of the stuff, and also coming to the top as well. Out of all of them, I would highly recommend not changing the center tank. Dolphins are by far, in my opinion, the best thing to add to this center tank. They're just so interesting, and it's definitely a nice centerpiece. And that's it. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. Please do remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.